When you think of the most memorable football team of all time, which team comes to mind? Not the best, but the most memorable. For me, it's the 2008 San Diego Chargers. I'd best describe this team as a total emotional roller coaster. From absolute heartbreaks to midseason nail biters and more heartbreak, and a season comeback like never before seen, this is the story of the 2008 San Diego Chargers. The Chargers came into the 2008 season with lofty expectations. Coming off of their first playoff win since the 1994 Super Bowl, sports writers had the Super Bowl on their mind when talking about this team. In a preseason article predicting the winner of the Super Bowl, Sports Illustrated writer Don Banks stated, "The Chargers, having finally ended their playoff win drought with a pair of January victories, are poised to take the biggest step of all. The Chargers over the Saints next February in Tampa." The reasons behind the Chargers' high expectations at the time were obvious. Philip Rivers going into his third season as the starting quarterback, having gotten better with every game the season before. The best running back in football, LaDainian Tomlinson, looking for his third consecutive rushing title. Their defense consisted of playmakers such as pass rushers Sean Merriman, who had a combined 39.5 sacks over the previous 3 seasons, as well as Antonio Cromartie, who led the NFL with 10 interceptions the year before, and other Pro Bowlers, such as defensive tackle Jamal Williams, defensive end Luis Castillo, and outside linebacker Sean Phillips. Their special teams unit included standout returner Darren Sproles, one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL in Nate Kading, and finally, their second-year coach was Norv Turner. While fans were skeptical of his hiring the year before, he had gotten the Chargers over their playoff hump. Now, it was time to put it all together and bring the team over the top. The Chargers started the season against the Carolina Panthers. Jake Delhomme was back at the helm as the Panthers' starting quarterback after missing the second half of the previous season with an elbow injury. After a scoreless first quarter, Rivers connected with receiver Chris Chambers for a 44-yard score, the first touchdown of the season. The Panthers and Chargers would go back and forth, with the Chargers taking a late fourth quarter lead. After the extra point, the score was 24-19 Chargers with 2:29 remaining. Delhomme proceeded to take every second off the clock on the following drive, and what would be one of the first of many heartbreaks that season, Delhomme hit Dante Rosario for a 14-yard score in the middle of what had been a very weak pass defense all game with no time remaining, giving the Panthers a walk-off touchdown. The next game against the Broncos, the Chargers had no answer for Jay Cutler in the Denver offense. The Broncos built up a 31-17 lead going into the fourth quarter thanks to 3 touchdown passes from Jay Cutler. After a Chris Chambers 15-yard touchdown and 2 field goals by Nate Kading, the team was within 1 point of the lead. Late in the fourth, after a Jay Cutler red zone interception by rookie Antoine Cason, and with 4:22 remaining, Darren Sproles ran in a dazzling 66-yard touchdown catch and run to give the Chargers the lead. What happened next will go down in San Diego infamy. Jay Cutler once again dinked and dunked, carving up the weak Chargers secondary. With under a minute remaining, and what appeared to be a gift from the football gods, Cutler lost control of the football, fumbling the ball with linebacker Tim Dobbins recovering in what appeared to clinch the game for San Diego. There was one problem, however. Lead official Ed Hockley blew his whistle inadvertently, signaling an incomplete pass in what was a clear fumble.
Play should have been ruled a fumble. By rule, the ball was dead when it hits the ground because the whistle was blown. Therefore, it's Denver's ball at the 10-yard line, which is the spot that the ball hit the ground. Third down.
After review, the Broncos got the ball back and scored with 24 seconds remaining. The Broncos went for 2 and took the lead, putting the Chargers at 0-2 to begin the season. For blowing the call, Ed Hockley apologized publicly to Charger fans. People deserve a response. You can rest assured that nothing anyone could say can make me feel worse than I already feel about my mistake on the fumble play. You have no idea. Affecting the outcome of a game is a devastating feeling. Officials strive for perfection. I failed miserably. Although it does no good to say it, I am very, very sorry. The Chargers would go on to win the next 2 games. The first in convincing fashion on Monday night against the Brett Favre-led Jets, the second only after being down 3-15 against the Jamarcus Russell-led Raiders, eventually winning 28-18 thanks to LaDainian Tomlinson's first 100-yard game of the season. As a side note, this game may be most known for Raiders coach Lane Kiffin trotting out Sebastian Janikowski to attempt a record 76-yard field goal at the end of the half. Kiffin was fired after the game. The Chargers would then lose in Miami thanks to the Chad Pennington-led Dolphins and their defense stopping LT on 4th and goal from the 1, winning 17-10. They would crush Matt Castle and the Patriots on Sunday Night Football, then lose the next week to Trent Edwards, Marshawn Lynch, and the Buffalo Bills, and the next week in London to Drew Brees and the Saints. The Chargers went into their bye week at a very disappointing 3-5. What was wrong with the Chargers? On offense, Phillip Rivers was playing the best football of his career. However, LT seemed to lose 2 or 3 steps and had been suffering from a lingering toe injury throughout the season. Overall, though, the offense was pretty good. They were 3rd in the league in scoring, with 28 points per game. However, it was the defense that had been the real letdown. They were 6th worst in the league in opponent passer rating, 4th worst in opponent completion percentage, and 10th worst in scoring allowed. At 3-5 with an extra week of prep, trailing the 4-3 Broncos in the AFC West, it was time to make a change. The Chargers fired their defensive coordinator Ted Cottrell after 1.5 seasons with the team in favor of linebacker coach and former Bear defensive coordinator Ron Rivera. They hoped this would be the spark needed to give the Chargers a run for the division. What happened next is something that no one in the NFL stratosphere could have predicted. With a new defensive coordinator and a very good offense, the Chargers hoped the second half of the season would be more successful than that of the first. After struggling to contain the lowly Tyler Thigpen 1-7 Chiefs, barely seeking out a 20-19 win, they would go on to lose the next 3 games. A 10-11 defensive struggle against Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers, a 20-23 Sunday Night Football loss to Peyton Manning's Colts on a last-second field goal, and a 16-22 loss against the Atlanta Falcons led by rookie Matt Ryan, a game in which former Chargers running back Michael Turner outrushed his protege LT 120 to 24 yards. The Chargers were 4-8. While the defense saw improvement in points allowed, the offense was regressing. Rivers was brutal against the Steelers and Falcons with passer ratings of 44.4 and 70 respectively. During the 3-game losing streak, LT ran for 58, 84, and 24 yards. Not exactly numbers you'd expect from a former MVP and 2-time rushing champion. Worst of all, the Broncos were now 7-5, having just defeated the now 9-4 Jets and 2 wins away from clinching the division. Perhaps it was time to throw in the towel, tank for a better pick. With 4 games left and the season being seemingly lost, the Chargers went into Week 14 with a Thursday night game against the Oakland Raiders. 2 bad teams at that point in the season, mostly playing for their dignity at stake. The Chargers hopped on the Raiders early, putting up 27 points in the first half, including a rushing touchdown from LT and 2 passing touchdowns from Phillip Rivers. They ended up winning 34-7. However, it seemed like it was too little too late. That Sunday, the Broncos defeated the Chiefs to improve to 8-5, now 1 win away from the division title. At 5-8 and hanging on to their playoff hopes by a thread, the Chargers were set to play the woeful 2-11 Kansas City Chiefs. The last time these 2 teams met up, the Chiefs gave them a run for their money, losing on a missed 2-point conversion. This time, the Chiefs were dead set on revenge. After a Chargers punt on the opening drive, the Chiefs marched down the field 96 yards, capping it off with a halfback pass from Larry Johnson to Tony Gonzalez. The Chargers' next 3 drives resulted in another punt, a Phillip Rivers sack fumble, and a Vincent Jackson fumble. The Chiefs capitalized once with a Dwayne Bowe touchdown catch, eventually leading at the half 14-3. Phillip Rivers began the half throwing a near pick six to Patrick Surtain. This was capped off with a Tyler Thigpen 3-yard rushing touchdown. The Chargers responded with a long touchdown drive of their own, making the score 21-10.
Chambered, Malcolm Floyd wide right, and they've got Brandon Carr matched up on him. Handoff Tomlinson scurries right up the middle, diving across the goal line. Touchdown San Diego!
With 4:55 to go in the game, the Chargers, down 11, would go on a long 15-play, 89-yard drive, capping it off with a 4-yard Malcolm Floyd touchdown reception. With just over 1 minute remaining, Dwayne Bowe miraculously dropped the would-be onside kick recovery, and 4 plays later, Rivers would connect with Vincent Jackson to give the Chargers the lead. The Chiefs had one more opportunity at the end, but Connor Barth missed a 50-yard field goal, and the Chargers, after having been down 2 scores with under 2 minutes remaining, won. That afternoon, the Chargers got more good news as the Broncos lost to the 11-3 Panthers. At 8-6, the Broncos were still only 1 win or Chargers loss away from clinching the division, but there was suddenly a slimmer of hope. With the Chargers now 2 games back in the AFC West, the team traveled to Tampa Bay to face the 9-5 Buccaneers. Phillip Rivers absolutely lit up the Tampa Bay secondary, throwing for 4 touchdowns, including 2 dimes to their all-pro tight end, Antonio Gates.
Flushed out of the pocket, looking, lob to the end zone. It's caught by Antonio Gates!
The Bucs made it interesting, taking a 24-20 lead in the second half after having been down 10, but it's Sproles' touchdown catch and run and Antoine Cason pick 6 sealed it for San Diego. They are now 7-8. The Broncos, on the other hand, could clinch a playoff spot with a win in Denver against the 6-8 Buffalo Bills, coming off of a 3-game losing streak. The Broncos initially looked like they would seal it, taking a 13-0 lead in the first half. The Bills, playing for pride, would then storm back, scoring on 6 straight possessions, then clinching it on defense. Chargers players, cheering on the Bills from their flight from Buffalo to San Diego, would now get a chance to face Denver in San Diego in a game for the division title. The Chargers were 4-8 1 month ago, now with an opportunity to win the division at 8-8. With the game now essentially a playoff contest, the NFL flexed it to Sunday Night Football. The Chargers put the hammer on the Broncos early and often. Everything clicked. LT ran for 3 touchdowns. Rivers threw for another 2 on 75% completion percentage. The game was never in doubt. The Chargers pulled ahead early in the half and never looked back. The final score was 52-21. At 8-8, they became the 7th team to make the playoffs without a winning record. The Chargers' comeback was now complete. With a playoff game locked in, the Chargers would host the Indianapolis Colts during Wild Card Weekend. After starting the season 3-4, the Colts had won 9 in a row, led by the season's MVP, Peyton Manning. The Colts were coming into San Diego with a chip on their shoulder. Having lost to the Chargers in last year's playoffs, this season, there was no doubt who the favorite was. After his best game of the season, LT was struggling through the practice week with a lingering knee issue. With the Chargers' star running back banged up, the Colts had no excuses this time around. After trading punts, Manning on a second drive carved up the Chargers secondary. Eventually, Joseph Adai pounded the ball into the end zone to give the Colts an early lead. The Chargers responded early in the second quarter after a banged-up Tomlinson jogged his way into the end zone to tie the game up. As the game went on, Chargers fans witnessed their defense playing harder, more energetic, and more strategic than they had all season. Peyton Manning was constantly hurried as he dropped back to throw. This was highlighted by the opening drive in the third quarter when the Chargers stopped Peyton Manning and the Colts on 4th down. The only other touchdown the Chargers defense let up the rest of the game involved Antonio Cromartie falling asleep in coverage, allowing Reggie Wayne to run right by him for a long score. With 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining and the score 14-17 Colts, the Chargers were forced to punt, giving an opportunity to the Colts offense to run out the clock and squeak out a win. Chargers punter Mike Cyphers drove the ball inside the 5-yard line, his 5th punt of the game inside the 10. With the Colts a first down away from winning the game, Chargers linebacker Tim Dobbins ran untouched to Peyton Manning, sacking him at the 1-yard line, forcing a punt and a chance for the Chargers to tie or take the lead. Rivers, who at that point was having a mediocre passing day, drove the Chargers down the field to set up a Nate Kading field goal. 17-17, tie game, overtime.
It is a tails.
After the coin toss, Rivers, Sproles, and the Chargers offense proceeded to drive down the field, while getting bailed out by questionable hands to the face call on 3rd down, to set up the greatest moment of the season. Darren Sproles took the handoff, cut to the left, put a move on to evade safety Antoine Bethea, and marched into the end zone, giving the Chargers a stunning upset. An 8-8 team, barely making the playoffs, taking down the mighty Peyton Manning. A modern-day David versus Goliath. San Diego would fly to Pittsburgh for the divisional game to face the 12-4 defensive-minded Steelers. The Chargers started off hot, taking the opening kick and proceeding to drive down the field, capping it off with a sweet Phillip Rivers to Vincent Jackson bomb. But while the Chargers competed early, this game turned out to be a major stab in the heart for fans who thought that this was a team of destiny. Pittsburgh's physicality proved to be too much for a San Diego team that was clearly inferior. The Chargers lost 24-35, ending their whirlwind of a season. Fans know a 21st century San Diego Chargers season feels like waiting around for life-altering surgery, 3 hours, every single Sunday. 2008 captured this feeling more than any other. It started a trend, one in which featured the same heart-clenching feeling of this season's miracles and mainly heartbreaks. 2008, though, is the most memorable of all these Chargers teams.